If you need help deciding whether Norland is the right medieval colony sim for you, this video will answer all of your questions, starting with a 60-second, too long didn't read overview of the game, then seeing what it's like to actually play it, while reviewing the main mechanics before answering some more practical questions to help you decide whether this game is worth your time and money today. If RimWorld and Crusader Kings 3 had a baby, the result would be Norland. Controlling a noble family through the generations, you oversee the construction of a town, the creation of production processes, researching new technologies, initiating trade deals, relations with faith leaders, balancing the happiness and mood of your lords and peasants, building an army to conquer surrounding lands, and holding back the unholy horde. You could use force, political intrigue, or marriage to create an empire. You could create an alliance of free cities, coming to each other's aid when called upon, or simply exist in your corner of the world, managing the multitude of challenges that come with succession planning over many generations. But ultimately, like Dwarf Fortress, it's fun to lose in Norland, building a kingdom, then watching it be destroyed in a near infinite number of ways, with love, death, tragedy, and taxes, then doing it all again, with a new story to tell at the end of each playthrough. So if you enjoy political intrigue, manufacturing, managing relationships and moods, worker allocation, nurturing a dynasty, and watching adorable cartoon lords and ladies have rumpy pumpy and make baby, Norland might be your cup of tea. If that hasn't put you off, then let's move on to the detail of what it's like to actually play Norland by summarizing the main mechanics before diving into more practical considerations to help you decide whether it's right for you, such as the learning curve, how often does it go on sale, and ultimately, examples of what kind of gamer will enjoy this game. Setting up a new game of Norland is highly customizable, starting with your noble family, their names, looks, skills and traits, with a higher overall skill level increasing the age of that individual. You then choose your starting position on the map, with the option to choose which other provinces start as your vassals, if any. And most importantly, you can customize your banner. Then you can spice things up with a starting scenario, such as one of your lords beginning as a captive in the hands of bandits, and it's up to you whether you pay the ransom for their release or send in a squad to free them by force. There are various modifiers that can make the playthrough more interesting and challenging too, as well as turning the unholy horde on or off, which is essentially a crisis you can attempt to survive. Then before finally starting the game, you can choose a peaceful or hardcore mode that will affect how aggressive your neighbors are and how much gold you start with. These customization options lead to immense replayability and vastly different experiences in each Norland playthrough, which is important because although conquering the whole continent is an obvious objective, it isn't all that difficult once you get over the initial, admittedly steep learning curve. Although I'm sure the endgame will get fleshed out over time, as this is an early access title after all, until then, experienced players can give themselves more challenging playthroughs to see how long they can survive before their family of nobles come to a messy or glorious end, with a whole bunch of role-playing opportunities along the way, if that's your thing. If you take anything away from this video, it should be how the game handles the tech tree with the knowledge system. Firstly, knowledge is in books that you have to buy from a visiting merchant called the Holy Caravan. But simply purchasing the books does not give you access to the knowledge they contain. One of your lords needs to spend time at the library reading each book to learn their secrets before you can actively use them, with different lords learning at different rates depending on their intelligence level, and different books are even in different languages that your lords may or may not know. Once learned, that knowledge is actually stored in the head of one or more of your lords, so when they die, that knowledge dies with them. As a result, this feeds into your succession planning, with lords transferring knowledge between them with wise conversations, as well as educating the next generation. Not only is this far more interesting than working your way along a tech tree, it's intuitive, as it reflects real life and feeds into several other game mechanics. Now, I started by explaining the knowledge system as it demonstrates how Norland can do things differently, but what you'll spend most of your time actually doing is managing each of your lords' daily tasks, as their time is the limiting factor. At first, your lords will spend their time giving out orders. Each building requires a lord to be allocated to it, so that every few days they will visit that building and deliver instructions. Doing so grants a production bonus based on that lord's skill levels, whereas failure to give orders to a building at all will drastically reduce that building's output. At first, you can simply allocate the lords that provides the greatest bonus, but as your village grows and your lords have a greater number of buildings to visit, you must adapt by clustering buildings together to ensure that each lord can visit as many buildings as possible with an optimal walking route, while still trying to allocate the lords with the most relevant skills to each building type. Managing your lords is how you interact with your kingdom and the world around you. It's where the core gameplay of Norland lies, not least because there is a day-night cycle, where your citizens and lords wake up at the same time each morning, go to the temple to pray, fulfilling their need for piety, then they see to their assigned duties, peasants working in the buildings you've allocated them to, and lords carrying out the tasks you've assigned to them, until the end of the day, when they kick back and relax, eventually fulfilling their need for sleep. Pretty quickly, you will find there are not enough hours in the day, and not enough lords to do all of the things that you want them to do. There are various ways to increase your number of lords, but you can also research and construct a chancellery, from which a lord can issue multiple orders via other workers, who then visit the buildings and issue the orders on the lord's behalf. You'll spend some time looking at the overworld map where you can see basic details of your neighbours' kingdoms, including their attitude towards you and an estimate of their military might. From here you can initiate trade deals, improve relations, and you can see real-time symbols that denote travelling lords, messengers, and indeed armies. You'll spend most of your time, however, looking at your town, starting with a familiar set of objectives. Instruct builders to construct farms, woodcutter camps, and housing to keep your peasants and lords alive and happy. The happier your peasants, the more migrants you will receive each day, thereby expanding your workforce. Over time, you'll produce more of everything to provide for your people and keep the migrants coming in, then trade the excess products for wealth, and eventually produce a big and well-equipped army. Your army, whether it be for defense or offense, is the ultimate expression of your success in Norland. You recruit from your peasants, train them up in a training ground, and equip them with the best weapons you can buy or manufacture for yourself. It's also possible to purchase the services of mercenaries, but they take time to arrive, forcing you to think ahead. Once you have an army, you can form it with a lord that leads it, at which point you can deploy them either on the overworld map with an auto-resolved battle based on your relative strengths, or a real-time battle. However, the real-time battles are very basic at the moment. Those are the main mechanics you need to get your head around when playing a game of Norland. But there are many other mechanics for you to try, so here's a quick-fire list of the other meaningful mechanics I haven't mentioned so far. Much like Crusader Kings 3, lords have moods, desires to be filled, a detailed set of evolving skills, relationships with each other, and can have mental breakdowns. They can fall in love, become jealous, have sex, and visit a grave to mourn a loved one. Keeping them happy can be a challenge, but look close enough and you'll see a constantly evolving soap opera. There's an internal economy where you dictate how much your workers get paid each day. They then use that money to purchase food and drink, and you set the price of that food and drink, but set your prices much lower than external traders and there will be consequences. You can buy prisoners or capture them in battle. They work longer days than normal workers, but they will try to escape, so you need to assign guards to catch them when they do. Eventually, you can free them to become a normal worker or even employ them in your army. If your workers become unhappy, they eventually become vagabonds or even cutthroats, causing trouble around town, but then again, cutthroats can be hired for evil deeds against rival kings. There are some decorative buildings which are okay for decorating your town, but it's not exactly a fleshed out mechanic that creative mode city builders will enjoy. There are several resources in this game and a respectable number of production chains. Nothing as elaborate as, say, Anno 1800, but it is enough to keep economic players happy. The overworld map contains the occasional bandit camp that you can either trade with, much to the annoyance of your neighbours, or you can fight and destroy, much to the delight of your neighbours. You can marry off your lords and ladies with those from other provinces, which will strengthen diplomatic ties. If your male lord marries a lady, then you will have to pay a dowry, but then you'll end up with an additional lady that can give orders and make babies. If you marry off one of your ladies, you will receive money, but ultimately you will lose that lady. There are several dark deeds you can perform, such as assassinating a lord or even kidnapping them, as well as robbing a rival's library for their precious knowledge-containing books or robbing gold from their hall, all of which will of course piss the other kings off. So far, this review has been positive, and full disclosure, I am a big fan of this game. However, it's not all good news. The UI is just not great. It's fine once you've learned how it works and where the various options are, but it takes time to reach that point, and basically, it's not intuitive, so I really hope they address that issue. Although there is a lot of replayability, especially if you enjoy a challenge and some medieval roleplay, there is a distinct lack of endgame for a title that otherwise has so much depth and promise. However, at this point, we must appreciate that this is an early access title. Hopefully by now you have an idea of what it's like to actually play the game, so let's address some other more practical considerations that might affect your purchasing decision. The various systems of Norland do take time to learn. There is a relatively steep learning curve, which is not helped by the frustratingly unintuitive UI. The game is rewarding once you get there, just bear in mind that you will need to invest time before the game will click. Norland is designed to be played for many hours at a time. It's an absorbing game. You can of course save the game and come back later, but if you're looking for a game you can pick up for half an hour then put down, you might want to look elsewhere. Unfortunately, Norland is very much a single-player game, and it's only available on Steam, so it's not for those looking for co-op or online multiplayer. At release, there was an initial discount of 20%, and since then, a 35% discount. If you were patient, then I predict the game will be on sale every 2 or 3 months. But we must also remember that, as an early access game, there will likely come a point where the game fully releases and the base price goes up. So there is an element of trying to get in there before that happens. Although there are no mods or DLCs to speak of, it is worth noting that, since release, the developers have updated the game an insane amount, to the point where many of us are telling them to take a break. Although that doesn't give us guaranteed longevity, it is certainly a good sign for the future that I felt worth highlighting. So with all that said, is Norland right for you today? As always, it depends what you're into. The obvious game to compare Norland to is RimWorld. However, it's not a guaranteed hit with RimWorld players. It really comes down to whether you find the medieval setting appealing. As a RimWorld player, ask yourself that, and you'll have a pretty decent idea whether you'll enjoy Norland. I'd actually suggest that Crusader Kings 3 players will get more out of Norland than RimWorld players. Though Norland has nothing like the supreme depth that Crusader Kings 3 can boast, it still ticks many of the same boxes, such as character depth and political intrigue, and, especially for those who find Crusader Kings 3 overwhelming, Norland might well be the alternative you've been waiting for. A slightly more left-field suggestion is for those who enjoy the economic gameplay of city builders, like that which can be found in Anno 1800. There are several resources to grow, including crops that are harvested over time, and your typical woodworkers and weapon forgers. But again, it's scaled back compared to other titles that specialize in this area. But if that's what you're looking for, then Norland's economic and production processes has a lot to offer you. After many hours of gameplay, I can confirm this game is basically perfect for the Steam Deck, so it's a big old tick of the box for that one. If you're still unsure, then my main comment is that Norland is not for the faint of heart, due to the learning curve. There are many interlinking systems, and it simply takes time to learn, which I know is a characteristic that some of you are not looking for, or don't have the time for. Otherwise, Norland is a rewarding, yet incomplete game. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own the game and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods, and if you enjoyed this style of review, consider subscribing for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.